I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-minute convos where I help you create a brand of your own unique, real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good day, Nathan Sawatzky. How are you going on this wonderful, beautiful day?
Well, I am doing really good. It is the end of my day. I'm in the south of France at the moment, so it was sunny. It was beautiful. Now it is dark and a little cold.
Yeah. Well, in Trinidad, I always offer that email that I have saved in draft, which is Caribbean Sunshine, that I can send your way if needed. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, Nathan, please tell us, which of your talents is responsible for us connecting at this time?
I suppose it would be storytelling. I think we got connected because I also am a podcaster, and podcasting is a way that I tell stories. So that would be the skill.
Yeah, most definitely. Now, you do multiple podcasts, don't you?
I do. I have one that's live and two that I am probably overthinking.
Yeah. Well, it's intriguing what you're doing there, though, where you're recording what you're thinking, and it's like you get insight to your thoughts, right?
Absolutely.
Where did you get that idea from?
I grew up in Canada, and I was an obsessive listener of the CBC, which is the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. I'm pretty certain that's what it is. And I was always a huge fan of talk radio. I loved the stories that would be told. There's this one Canadian broadcaster, and he had the segment that was called Now the Rest of the Story, and he would take just something that everybody knew, but then he would go deeper. And to me, that was always just a really, really moving thing, because we see what comes to us in the news and the media, and we make all sort of assumptions because we're given very little information. But as soon as you humanize the story, it suddenly changes everything. And that was probably one of the first influences for me to pursue it, because there is always a deeper story, and too often we just stop short.
What's the podcast you would point us to listen?
Oh gosh, great one. You know what? My favorite that I just finished listening to through season 2 is Malcolm Gladwell's Revisionist History. And probably for the same reason that I just said, I love how he takes a piece of history that everybody is relatively aware of. And it is fairly US-centric for the most part, although he does dive into European history with some stuff that happens in World War II. But it's a relatively kind of known piece of history that has this giant backstory, and he takes us into that. And I love that.
That's amazing. That is amazing. So you are a podcaster, and you listen to podcasts, and you understand what it takes to produce these things, right? Why would you continue to produce them?
Because I think that there are some really important stories that need to be told, for starters. And I think, secondly, podcasting is still in its infancy. I mean, it's still difficult to find new podcasts. It's still a bit of a cottage industry where there's a lot of people that are doing it. And I think that it's going to become more mainstream. I think that it is becoming more mainstream. And I think that it's really important that for those of us that are doing it right now, we have an obligation to shape it so that as it goes more mainstream, as it becomes more widespread across the world, that it is a medium that is actually a lot more responsible than a lot of other media, I think, that has emerged in the past 10, 20 years.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. We'll definitely have the recordings to check back to see what we said and what we thought, right?
Yeah, right?
But
exactly.
I do believe it is in its infancy stages, and I do believe it's going to be something that's pretty amazing. The community around podcasting is pretty fascinating, isn't it?
Oh, it really is. It's a great community.
But tell me one other thing that you've done, Nate, consistently over the last 3 years.
So we've been traveling. My wife and 6 kids and I, we left Canada in early 2015. We set out to Ireland, and after being in Ireland for a little while, we decided to carry on. And so we've been traveling across Europe for just about 3 years. And most of it has been for personal, but there's also been a lot of work travel, and it really has been just an incredible experience.
That is a podcast in itself, isn't it? Like right there.
Yeah.
6 children. Wow. How has that been?
No, it's been amazing. Yeah, it's incredible. We never have a boring day.
You could not. What are their ages?
The oldest is 13, and the youngest is 4.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a really busy 10 years there,
Wow. The last decade, the podcast, 6 children and traveling.
Exactly.
Wow. So how does it make you feel doing what you're doing? Wow. How does that make you feel?
It terrifies me some days and thrills and excites me other days. I love seeing the world, and I think, as the world becomes more globalized and as technologies connect us every day even more, the risk is that we hear just a little bit of something and we think we understand the story. So we hear something that may be happening in the Philippines, and we think because we've read an article online that we understand it. But when we travel, we actually touch it, and we start to create human connections as opposed to characters in a story that we know are based on a true story, but somehow we fictionalized it in our head and started to make decisions on it. So it's good. Like, it is so good to see the world, to experience the world, to touch the world. And I think maybe it's not for everyone, but certainly I think more people would really benefit from it, even just a little bit of travel.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing audience. That is an entire podcast conversation. Just traveling with 6 children. Wow. from the luggage, the water they drink, how do they eat? It just, wow. I'm tempted. Yeah. But I love the fact that you're living in action, and it seems as though you're a very humble guy in terms of the walk of your life. It seems so. I could be wrong.
That's a tough one to answer.
But it is fascinating. Wow. All right. So, amazing audience, we are live with Nathan Sawatzky. Again, you can check him out. The best place to connect with him, I think, is his website. You could let me know. So it's nathansawatzky.com. Where would you send someone if you needed to send them to connect with you?
Yeah, that's a great place. Or find me on Twitter at Nate Sawatzky.
Wonderful. Well, Nate, let's switch gears for a moment now, and let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water. Nathan, what is your earliest childhood memory?
Yeah, it was interesting. The first memory that I can think of, or at least that kind of jumps out when you ask that question, is I remember moving into this house in Edmonton, Alberta, in Canada, and it was 4-story split-story house. So it was essentially 2 stories, but it was split to 4 levels. And I was completely enamored by the amount of stairs in the house. And I don't know why. I'm not a big fan of stairs or anything, but it was just such a vivid memory. But I think a little bit deeper. Actually, one of the earliest memories I think that really kind of stands out was after I was born, a couple years later. My mom and dad, they had a second child, and that second child, unfortunately, didn't live past 6 days. Mm. And I don't remember a lot of the events. I understand it more now from my parents telling me the stories, but I remember just this massive amount of emotion and staying with some family friends and everybody being really sad and not understanding what was going on. And that probably stands out, at least as the first kind of time-bound childhood memory that I have.
Yeah, pretty intriguing stuff. Pretty intriguing. So, around what age were you with the steps?
It would have been 3 or 4.
So why do you think this memory is so clear?
I think it was so much emotion. I think that the world changed, and I didn't know that it was changing. It didn't necessarily change for me, but the world was changing for the people that were closest to me. And I suppose I became, highly aware at a very, very kind of innocent, childlike way that the world doesn't always maintain the course that you expect it's going to.
That is amazing. Can I offer an interpretation to the thought picture you created in my mind?
Yeah.
Oh, I love the idea. Well, I'm expanding on what you said and what you expressed, right? Which is exactly that in terms of the awareness. That was the word I was coming with, right? The awareness you had. But I think at the same time, wow, it's fascinating how it connects that you're traveling the world now and the steps that you've created in your life in itself with children. I mean, having 4 children creates an entire different model in any person's life, right? And the steps of your life, if you would, that you are getting older, but at the same time, you're constantly seeing it, just like that house with the 4 different levels, if you would. You're constantly seeing it in steps. And I mean, for as long as you live, that is definitely going to be there. That is intriguing how it connects.
Yeah.
Wow. You've created the first memory in your life. Wow. That is fascinating. If we fast forward to when you were 12 years old, what was your favorite song?
Zombie by the Cranberries.
All right.
Yeah, and I would love to say that it was for some, like, the song is really about some incredible stuff that was happening in Ireland, and my mom is Irish, and so there was this identity, I think, that I found with a band being Irish. But at the time, I just thought the song rocked, so it was a great tune.
Yeah, love it. Well, my friend, we have arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there's a small declaration form. So it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. We're going to move pretty quickly here. Are you ready, Nate?
I'm ready.
Nathan, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
Yes.
Are you married?
I am.
Do you have children?
Yes.
How many?
6.
6. Do you believe in God?
I do.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
I do.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
No.
How about 3 hours a week?
Some weeks maybe.
What about screen time, the phone and the computer? Is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
It would probably be 8 or more, depending on how busy I am for work.
Right. Nate, if you had to share with us a statement that represents who you are, your own unique real statement, what would you say that is?
Just because you can doesn't mean you should. We should always look for something that's going to bring value. And I know that I'm extending more than the yes, no, but I think my wife, she really instilled in me this idea that we're here to make the world more beautiful. And that's what I want to do. My personal statement is make the world more beautiful.
Love it. There are always other steps to get to the next level. Yeah. Always options. Pretty amazing. Nathan Sawatzky, this has been a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
No, I mean, it's just great to have this conversation. It's fun, and I'm really appreciative of it. So thank you.
You are welcome. Nathan Sawatzky, one more time, I say thank you for being on what is inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, A Focus on Diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com, and for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyaj.com.